Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We are joined by David Fradin from the Spice Catalyst and so much more. Really, he's helped build successful organizations over the years. You've worked with Apple, Hewlett Packard. You've done so much, with professional development companies. And you're joining us today also as an author. He's a podcaster, kind of does it all. And now he's here to talk more about his other company, Spice Catalyst. And if you go to the website, spicecatalyst.com, you'll find out more. In the meantime, I want to say welcome back to you. And
Well, what I want to talk about is organizing and managing insanely great products. And that's based upon my book by the same name.
yeah,
And one of the first things I talk about in there is the importance of calling the product manager, who's the person principally responsible for a product success, a product success manager.
okay.
And the reason I advocate for that is I tell a story with a funny little memo that's up on my blog and the website where a product manager sends a memo to his boss, the VP of product management, says, I want to change my title to product success manager because with the title product manager, nobody knows what I do. And he says, for example, I would go to a cocktail party and meet a lovely lady, and we start talking. And after I ask her what she does, and she tells me, she asks me what I do. And I say, I'm a product manager, and I'm principally responsible for doing market research and product research and understanding what my customer wants to do. And then I define them in terms of writing up personas, and then the total of a market, the total available market, the target market, do the competitive research, the product positioning, the value proposition, the messaging points, the sales plan, the marketing plan, the training plan, the distribution plan. And usually before I get through more than about 15 seconds of that, she turns and walks away. So, boss, I need your help so that I can get married and have the requisite 2.3 kids. Can I please change my title to product success manager? So then when she asks me what I do, I can say I'm a product success manager, and they'll know instantly that I'm responsible for the success of the product. And P.S., if you let me change my title to that, you could become vice president of product success. And PPS, if you let me change my title to product success manager, I'll invite you to the wedding. So I told this story to a bunch of engineers and product managers at Samsung back in 2018 in Bangalore, India. And the VP of product management that met with me afterwards, he says about a half a dozen of his product managers came up to him asking if they could change their title to product success manager. And he said that he told them no because Samsung in Korea would not allow them to change their titles. I said, I do it anyway. Let them print off business cards like that. Don't tell people in South Korea that you did that. So it's very important in the success of the product. And the book builds upon the 5 keys to product success, which is in the mnemonic Spice Catalyst and the mnemonic Spice. S stands for having a product market
Mm-hmm.
strategy. P as for repeatable processes. I is having the information necessary to make decisions. The C is understanding what it is that your customer wants to do. And the E is having all of the skill sets or competencies within the organization to assure product success. Without those 5 keys, about 35% of all new products worldwide fail in the marketplace because these 5 keys are not followed. And in previous episodes of this podcast, we went into each of those areas in much more detail.
Got it.
The concept of a product manager was actually developed by Dave Packard and Bill Hewlett of Hewlett Packard in 1938. And that's where the title product manager came from. But it actually dates back to 1931, 1932, when a fellow by the name of Neil McElroy promoted the idea of having what's called a brand manager. And he wrote a memo to the president of Procter and Gamble, and he says, a brand manager is responsible for naming the product that's easy to pronounce, rememberable, recognizable, and translates into other languages easily. That is kind of funny because there was a car that Chevy named, I forget what it was, I think it was Nova. But in South America, in Spanish, Nova means throw up. So that was not a good idea.
Uh-uh.
Uh,
No.
the GM's brand managers did not follow McElroy's first point in his memo. Then he says the product manager's responsibility is to position the product in the mind of the potential customer in the marketplace and to focus on the product versus a business function like finance, HR, manufacturing, and so forth. And many corporations are organized on a lying basis in manufacturing, engineering, HR, legal, and so forth, with little focus on the product. So the product manager needs to pull that together to focus on the product and not the
Mm-hmm.
function. It also enables a multi-divisional structure with decentralized decision making.
Yep.
And that was one of the reasons that HP grew 20% a year every year for
Impressive.
50 years, is because they had individual divisions of less than 500 people that were as close to the customer as possible. And then lastly, his memo says that the product is driven not by the Salesforce requests for
Okay.
features, but what the product, how the product matches into the customer's, what the customer wants to do, what the customer needs and wants. Example of this is a friend of mine, Dean Stewart, who was one of my clients, VP of product management at Nixdorf Diebold, which made ATM machines.
Oh,
He said that his president came back from a dinner meeting with the president of Bank of America, and they insisted upon these ATM machines having a certain set of features. So they had to shake up the engineering team and
ah,
start up again. And they built the product with all those new features in it. And and then when they shipped the product, sales did not go up at
oh,
all, and no one could be held responsible. So, salesperson follows Newton's law of or Ohm's law of least resistance. They prefer to take an order rather than go out and work on trying to sell things. So, the brand manager and pretty much the product manager today, or what I prefer to call the product success manager, takes full responsibility for the product's characteristics, customer testing, pricing, sales, promotion, packaging, and advertising. But without the authority today, is what happened, is the brand manager had the authority.
oh.
They had the budget over all of those things,
Mm-hmm.
the budget to pay for the marketing, the budget to pay for the market research. But that was stripped away in the product management job description at HP, and that pretty much persists to today, thus rendering the capabilities of the product manager only on the basis of their negotiation skills and their mediation skills to persuade others to do the things that they need to get done. So that's the key differences between brand management, product management, and I advocate that the product success manager should be given the budgetary authority back so that they truly can be have the authority over the product's success.
Got it. And, today, obviously, you're here again, and I love how you're, just as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, so organized in what we do, what we talk about, and what we see. And you always bring new light to something. And clearly, it just fascinates me with all that you've done that you're here and you're still continuing, to be so successful. I commend you on that, your business and helping others become as successful and learning how to operate everything. So it just fascinates me, someone who does not have an entrepreneurial brain, which I wish I did. Fascinating. I'm learning so much from you again in this field. So much have to commend you on that. And back to you at the Spice Catalyst. Sorry to interrupt about, I can't organize anything, let alone my house, and you can organize businesses. So go ahead. We're going to talk more about the voice of the customer coming up too.
Well, that's critical, and that's what you do in terms of understanding your customer, understanding what it is they want to do, when they want to do it, where they want to do it, how they want to do it, what's standing in their way. how important it is to get it done, and how satisfied are they with the current solution. Well, you have to be listening for that with listening posts in the marketplace and around your organization. Listen to the issues being raised by support. Listen to the questions being asked in the training classes. Listen to the questions that your sales force is making. And a classic example of this is when COVID hit, restaurants were thrown into a tizzy because people couldn't go inside a restaurant, and they had to quickly pivot to either delivering food or allowing for pickup of food or serving outside where the air could circulate and COVID would not be as intense. So that needs to be an ongoing thing. And I've said before that the way to know that your product is ready for the market is when you've identified 15 unmet needs that your product will satisfy. So you're listening out there as to what the customer wants to do until you identify those 15 unmet needs. And then when the number of those unmet needs go down and other products or services come into the marketplace to satisfy those unmet needs, that's when you convert to what the Boston Consulting Group calls a cash cow. And you stop investing in R
Mm-hmm.
and just milk the product for as much profit as you can for as long as you possibly can. So the voice of the customer is very important. We had at Apple a dealers council that we got together periodically, and we as product managers could go before the dealers council and ask these dealers from around the world that would gather in Cupertino every few months any questions that we want about the market and about our potential product and what kinds of features it should have. Well, that needs to be extended today all the way to the customer. With the advent of the internet, that's a whole lot easier to be done.
And what else did you want to add about that before we move on to talent development?
That's it. Let's go into talent development.
Mm.
Uh, and this is another issue I talk about in the book, Organizing and Managing and Selling Great Products, which is focused on managers, product success managers, directors, VPs, and the CXO suite, is you have to develop your talent. No person is born with many of the 130 key competencies and skill sets for success, which I identify and go into detail in the book. So that has to be developed. And you need to have an array of beginners, intermediate, and advanced experts in each of these skill set areas. For example, product positioning, or how to do market research, or pricing strategy, or distribution strategy. So you should go out first and evaluate what skill sets do all of your employees have, what skill sets do they need to acquire, and then put together a training development plan in order to have them go through those educational courses focused on acquiring those skill sets. An
Got
example of that, Cisco, where I teach product management, they give each person a budget of a few $1,000s a year that they can use and spend on any kind of training that they want. But the company should take that even further and do the annual assessment of where they're at and a plan of where they need to go and make sure the courses are available, the mentors are available to upgrade those competencies and those skill sets. And that too would significantly reduce the chances of failure and improve the chances of success.
it. Thank you. And at this time, I just have to interrupt and remind everyone how we can reach you. Spicecatalyst.com. And I know you always give out your personal email, I believe, right? Do you want to share that or a phone number for us as well?
Dave at spicecatalyst.com or 408-892-5025.
Great. Well, you mentioned next step in developing this plan and really an assessment altogether, correct?
Right. And one of the things that some companies have done is they've set up a product management council. For example, I gave a speech to Pitney Bowes, their product managers that were brought in from throughout the world. And Pitney Bowes is famous for its postage meters and the very large postage meters. And they're beginning to learn that they have a lot of data on what kinds of things are being shipped to what kinds of addresses. So they found they could sell that information to fire departments and police departments, which found that data very helpful. So they organized a council of a lead product manager from each of their divisions that would meet on a regular basis to assess where that career field is at and where it ought to be going and what they ought to be doing, and also to share best practices amongst the different divisions. Other companies have set up academies. For example, Apple has Apple University, which is essentially an MBA level school within the company. HP had an internal training department and an academy. So some companies have set up a product management academy as a way of training product managers, as opposed to the traditional way of product success managers getting training on the job. And frankly, it'll take 1 to 3 years of on the job training before they become an expert in how to manage a product. So an academy would be very important. In terms of assessing your people, you should also assess your processes that your company is using for product development. And if you want the questions that you can ask in either of those
No.
areas, those are both in my book. Next, you need to have mentoring and coaching in between the trainings so that you hook up a senior experienced product manager with a new product manager, and they could talk to the senior one, the experienced one, as they move along for their advice and their direction.
And of course, the book. Right?
Right.
What's the
Come on.
title of the book that we can get?
It's good managing insanely great products.
Got it. Just Google his name, everything pops up. And we'll talk more now about the training, mentoring, coaching, and how we got to keep this up as well.
Yeah, it should, like I mentioned, the plan should be assessed and repeated each year. And if you just search for my name, David Fradin, on Amazon, this book and my other books will pop up. Uh, a key aspect of this is the product success manager's job description. And I have a outline of what that ought to be. And I've separated that from the product marketing manager, which is responsible for the handoff to the marketing department. And the product marketing manager is responsible for such things as the marketing plan, the positioning plan, the targeted marketing plan, the value proposition, the key sales points, the support and service plans, and that type of thing. Lastly, it's important that in addition to these hard skills on all the topics that I mentioned earlier, is that the product success manager has a bunch of soft skills. One, in principle, is good communication skills and have the ability to persuade others to their point of view. Because you have within an organization conflicting priorities. You have the finance department wanting to maximize profits. You got the sales department maybe wanting to maximize sales, gross sales. You have the marketing department maybe wanting to maximize the margins, or the dealers want to maximize their margin, the profit that they make on each sale. So with all these competing priorities, the ability of the product success manager to persuade others is very important. And part of that persuasion is knowing how to negotiate and how to mediate. Negotiate is when you sit in a room and you try to convince the others by getting them to invest their time and their effort into buying into making a decision and enabling them to compromise. Mediation is something that I used to do in the environmental area, so it comes easy to me, and that's when you sit privately as a mediator with each of the parties involved, and you find out what it is that's motivating them. And in fact, each time I started a new job as a product success manager, the first thing I would do is go sit down with the head of engineering, the head of marketing, the head of sales, the head of support service, the head of manufacturing, the head of
Oh,
acquisition and purchasing, the finance department, the HR department. And I would know that when I go into a room with them in the future, what's motivating them, so I could form the solution to the problem that makes everybody happy. And that's essentially what a mediator does, is to try to find the overlap of common areas of interest amongst individuals or groups that have different priorities. Another soft skill is leadership. And you can't lead unless some people are willing to follow. And if you've got nobody willing to follow, you can't lead. So
Uh-uh.
you have to take care of your people, and you have to demonstrate competency. You have to have display a set of values that people will follow and admire. And with those values, you also have a vision of where you're at and where you want to go with the product in the future. And that becomes a mission statement, and you have to make sure that your values, your vision, and your mission statement maps into the corporation's same values, vision, and mission. Otherwise, you've got a product that doesn't fit. For example, a beverage company that was well known for quenching thirst came out with a salty chip. And people couldn't understand that the brand was quenching thirst. Why would you put out salty chips based on the same brand name? So it did not fit. The vision for the product did not fit in the vision or the brand of the company. And they eventually had to very quickly
Excuse me.
cancel that the salty chip product line. Next on the list of soft skills is the ability to execute, to get things done. A lot of people are just all talk and no action. The product success manager has to actually accomplish things and get it done. They also have to be a keen observer of interpersonal and organizational behavior. I was lucky at University of Michigan when I was working on my interdisciplinary engineering degree. I was able to take a course on interpersonal and organizational behavior. And with that in my background, I could easily identify what is motivating people, how they're interacting with others, and how those are rolled up in the organization's behavior, how the sales department is interacting with the support and service department, and so forth. The second to last one is strategy and planning.
Planning.
I'll
Okay.
put a strategy is a plan is a strategy, to be able to write this down and then persuade others that this plan and the strategy is the right way to go. And then there's innovation. And innovation is a buzzword these days, particularly in startups and entrepreneurs. It really is nothing more than doing something faster, better, higher quality, or with style. For example, the Apple
Mm-hmm.
Watch does the same thing that watches have done for decades, if not centuries. They tell you what time it is. Well, they also made it very stylish. And that was as a result of the people were buying Apple Watches for $10,000 a piece because of the style. They wanted to be seen with the Apple Watch. You notice when you go into a room or a restaurant or a bar, people usually take their iPhone out and they lay it on the table to say, "Look, I've got
Oh.
an iPhone." People that have an Android usually hide it in their pocket because people don't, I'm just kidding. They don't want them to know that they have an Android phone and not an iPhone. So innovation and the ability to innovate using design thinking is another key soft skill that the product success manager needs to have. Lastly, in the overall product planning area, that's to plan not only where your product is now, but what the future follow-on products are going to be, both at a more expensive price point, at the current price point, and perhaps at a lower price point, so that you can convert one product into a product line, which will have a sustainable and level source of revenues over a longer period of time than just the life cycle of one product. And that's it.
That's it. I'm so sorry. I'm sick and I can't stop coughing. So I apologize if I've coughed quite a few times. I keep trying to mute it, but I can't hold it sometimes. So thank you, David. I know we're going to talk more about product success, of course, next week. In the meantime, if we are looking to get in touch with you to find your books and to find out more information about marketing and training and product management, how do we do so? Oh, and then I lose you. Your audio. Hello, hello. I'll tell them. Spicecatalyst.com. Are you there? David, spicecatalyst.com. I don't know if we're both frozen right now, but there you go. I hear you. Well, we ended at the perfect time. David, spicecatalyst.com. Got me? Perfect. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day. Great holiday, but I'll see you next week before. Thanks so much.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.